I am Jack, a new student of the prestigious university in the city. At the moment I am 19 years old, and am preparing for a new journey in my life. Tomorrow I will officially enroll, beginning the university life I have long dreamed of. The next morning I eagerly get on the bus, carrying my luggage in a cheerful mood. On the way I gaze at the scenery around me, feeling the changes little by little as I get closer to the new school. Finally, the bus stops in front of the university gate. I step off the bus gazing at the vast and modern campus. Everything is new and full of promise. After completing the enrollment procedures, I am guided to the dormitory where I will stay during my studies. The dormitory is located behind the school, a tall ancient building with classical architecture. I feel a bit strange and somewhat shiver when I see it, but I tell myself that it is only because I am not yet used to it. I step inside, where a long narrow corridor stretches before my eyes. The walls are painted pale green, and the old wooden doors make the space somewhat gloomy. I find my room according to the number on the room card and open the door to step in. My room is quite small but clean and tidy. There are 2 single beds, 1 desk and 1 wardrobe. I put down my luggage and start arranging my belongings. While busy, I hear a knock on the door. Opening it, I see another male student standing there, smiling and greeting me. "Hello, I'm David, also a new student like you. We will be roommates this school year," I happily reply. "Nice to meet you, David. I'm Jack." We quickly get acquainted and chat with each other about life and plans for the upcoming studies. David is a cheerful and friendly guy. This makes me feel more comfortable knowing that I will not be alone in the strange place. That night, after finishing arranging my belongings and having dinner, we decide to go to bed early to prepare for the first day of school. When the light goes out, the room becomes silent and pitch black. I lie on the bed trying to fall asleep. Suddenly, I hear light footsteps outside the corridor. At first I think it's just another student walking around, but the footsteps become clear and stop right in front of my room door. I feel chills, my heart pounding hard in my chest. The room door suddenly opens slightly, a cold draft blowing into the room. I sit up staring at the door, trying to see what's happening. There is no one outside in the corridor, only darkness and ominous silence. I intend to step outside to check, but an icy hand from behind grabs my shoulder. Startled, I turn back. I see David also sitting on his bed, his face pale and his eyes anxious. "Did you hear it?" David whispers, voice full of tension. "Something is wrong here." We sit silently listening more carefully. The footsteps resound again, this time clear, as if someone is pacing right in front of our door. I swallow my saliva, fear flooding over me. "What should we do now?" I whisper, asking David, who looks at me with determined eyes. "We need to find out what is happening here. Perhaps there are rules that we do not yet know about this dormitory." The next morning we decide to investigate more about those strange sounds and the rules of the dormitory. We start asking the older students, those who had lived here before us. Some avoid the questions, while others only say that we will gradually get used to everything. Finally, a senior student named Michael agrees to tell us about the strange rules of the dormitory. There are unwritten rules that everyone here knows and obeys. Michael says, if not, terrible things will happen. We sit listening to Michael telling horrific stories about the dormitory, about students who violated the rules and faced unexplainable things. From that we know that this dormitory is not just a place to stay, but also conceals many dark and eerie secrets. After hearing Michael talk about the strange and terrifying rules of the dormitory, David and I both feel more worried and tense than ever. The atmosphere in the room becomes heavy, and we know that life here will not be easy. These rules are not just rumors, but are cruel laws that we must obey to ensure our safety. We must remember these rules carefully. I say to David, trying to remain calm. If not, we could be in danger. David nods, his eyes filled with determination. Yes, we cannot let ourselves become victims of these horrific rules. Michael continues explaining in detail each rule one by one. 1. Do not stay awake past 11 p.m. If you stay awake past 11 p.m., the guard will come and gouge out your eyes. Michael says in a serious tone. No one knows how they do it, but all those who violated lost their eyes in a strange way. 2. Monday you are only allowed to wake up after 5 a.m. This is very important. Michael continues. If you wake up before 5 a.m. on Monday, the consequence will be the same as the first one. The guard will appear and take your eyes. 3. Do not leave your room from 12 noon to 1 p.m. During this time, the guards will be watching, and if they find you outside your room, they will cut off your legs. Michael says in a chilling voice. This has happened to many people, and no one wants to experience it. 4. Do not be curious after midnight. After 12 a.m. if you hear any sounds in the room, you must pretend as if you hear nothing and continue sleeping. Michael warns. There are many monstrous things here, and curiosity will only lead to calamity. 5. Newcomers will be exempt on the first day. The first day you arrive here, you will be exempt from all rules. But from the second day on you must obey everything. 6. Do not scream too loud. If you scream too loud in the dormitory, your tongue will automatically be torn out and your throat will be pierced by a knife. Michael says in a horrified tone. This has happened to many people, and the sight was terrifying. 7. You must be present in the dormitory after 5 p.m. After 5 p.m. you must return to the dormitory. Michael emphasizes. If not, you will die in agony and your body will explode. This is the most horrific thing I have ever heard. After hearing these rules, I feel an overwhelming fear engulfing me. I look at David, seeing the worry evident on his face. We know that we cannot be careless for even a moment if we want to survive in this environment. We must be careful. I say, trembling. We cannot let ourselves become victims of these rules. David nods, his eyes full of determination. Yes. We will obey everything and find a way to survive. That night when the lights go out, I lie on my bed, trying not to let negative thoughts invade my mind. These dreadful rules are like a haunting shadow, always lurking and threatening us. I tell myself I must be strong and not let fear take over me. The first day passes and we try to get used to the new environment. Everything seems normal, but always a sense of unease hovers. We know we must be careful and obey every rule if we want to survive in this dormitory. Time passes. David and I gradually get used to the rhythm of life here. We always remind each other about the rules and overcome difficulties together. Even when tired and stressed, we know we must be strong and not let fear take over us. David, my roommate, and I always try our best to strictly obey the horrific rules of the dormitory. These rules are like a sword hanging over our heads. We always remind ourselves that just one small mistake, we could pay with our lives. Every day we do everything to remember and carry out these rules carefully. Before 11 p.m., the two of us always turn off the light, go to bed and close our eyes. The alarm clock is always set to ensure that we do not wake up before 5 a.m. on Monday. From 12 noon to 1 p.m., we always ensure we are in our room, not daring to step outside even once. And after 5 p.m., we always return to the dormitory before nightfall. Every night when the clock strikes 11 p.m., we turn off the lights and lie on our beds in absolute darkness. The steady breathing of David is the only thing that reassures me that we are still safe. But the fear is always present, reminding that just one tiny mistake, the consequence will be horrific. Even though we try to obey the rules strictly, I still cannot restrain my curiosity. Why are there such strange and dreadful rules? Who set them? And why do they exist in this dormitory? These questions always haunt me, but I know that investigating could lead to danger. One afternoon when we are sitting in the room, David sighs and says, "Jack, have you ever wondered why there are these rules? Why do we have to live in fear like this?" I nod. Yes, I think of that too. but I dare not investigate further for fear of violating rules. We just need to obey and hope that everything will be fine. David looks at me with thoughtful eyes. But can we live forever in such fear? I feel there is something very strange here. I stay silent knowing that David is right. My curiosity grows larger every day, but I also understand that investigating could lead to dire consequences. One night when both of us are reading books, I see David suddenly stop and look out the window. "Jack, do you hear anything?" he asks worriedly. I listen, and from afar strange sounds echo. Small laughter and eerie whispers resound from the corridor outside. My heart beats faster and I remind David not to pay attention to it. Remember rule number 4. After midnight, if you hear any sounds in the room, you must pretend not to hear. David nods, but his eyes are still full of worry. The sounds outside gradually fade away, but they leave behind a deep sense of unease within me. Can we survive and uncover the truth behind these rules? Each passing day my curiosity grows larger. I begin to observe everything around more carefully. The dark corridors, the furtive glances from other students, and the whispers in the night. I feel there is something terribly wrong here, but I do not dare do anything that could violate the rules. Life in this dormitory is like a mind game, where carelessness could lead to death. David and I continue living in fear, trying to obey every rule to ensure our safety. But can we forever live in the shadow of these dreadful rules? Or will there come a day we discover the truth and free ourselves from this haunting? Only time can answer. Gradually David and I become accustomed to these strange rules. We have lived in constant vigilance, strictly obeying every regulation to ensure our safety. Each passing day, the initial fear gradually becomes a habit. However, the curiosity about the reason for these dreadful rules always haunts our minds. Just a few weeks left until summer break. David and I start discussing more about the rules. One evening when both of us are sitting in the room, David says, "Jack, have you ever wondered why there are these rules? We have lived here for a long time, but still do not understand the real reason behind them." I nod in agreement. Yes, I also think about that, but I fear if we try to investigate, we will be in danger. David sighs. I know, but the curiosity keeps clinging to me. We cannot live forever in such fear. There must be some way to investigate without violating rules. One afternoon when we are sitting in the room, a dorm mate named Tom comes knocking. Tom is a third-year student who has lived here for a long time. He seems to understand these rules better than we do. Tom says, "I hear you are curious about these rules. I also do not know much, but there are some things I have heard from others." David eagerly asks, "Do you know why there are these rules? Why do they exist?" Tom looks around, lowers his voice and whispers, "These rules are not random. There are stories about this dormitory once being a place of many mysterious and horrific cases. People say that these rules were set to protect us from the monstrous things that once haunted this place." I feel a chill in my spine, asking further, "What exactly are they? Those monstrous things? What are they?" Tom replies, "No one knows clearly, but there are stories about students before who disappeared mysteriously or encountered dreadful supernatural phenomena. These rules were passed down to ensure our safety, to avoid facing similar things." David and I look at each other, feeling a growing worry, but the curiosity is still stronger. "Do you know anyone who experienced these things? Has anyone survived after violating the rules?" Asked. Tom shakes his head. "I only heard from those before. None of them are here to confirm. But if you want to know more, try investigating from those who have lived here long, or from old documents about the dormitory." We thank Tom and begin thinking about what he said. Tom's story makes us even more curious, but also more frightened. Are these rules truly meant to protect us, or just a horrific joke? Each night when lying on the bed, I still cannot stop thinking about those stories. The strange noises in the night, the dark shadows flickering outside the window, all make me uneasy. But I know that we must find the truth, even if it means facing danger. We decide we will investigate more about the past best dormitory. That is the only way to answer all the questions and maybe free us from the haunting of these dreadful rules. Only time can answer. Will our curiosity lead to any result, or drag us into a nightmare even more horrific? One night, curiosity defeated fear in me. I lie on the bed tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The clock points to 11 p.m. and I still have not closed my eyes. The thought of these strange rules keeps lingering in my head like ghosts I cannot dispel. I tell myself I surely will not violate, but curiosity keeps urging me to stay awake. Time passes. I see nothing happen, until the clock points exactly 12 a.m. Suddenly a shadowy figure appears in my room, holding an axe in his hand. The shadow glides around the room. My eyes half open, peeking through a small slit. Because it is too dark, I cannot clearly see the face or any detail. But the sense of panic engulfs me. My heart pounds rapidly, as if about to burst out of my chest. The man holding the axe moves slowly, as if searching for something. I try to lie still, not daring to move. The pungent smell of blood begins to appear somewhere, like an ominous warning. I think someone must have died for violating one of those cruel rules. That thought makes me even more terrified. But I know I must try to breathe steadily and remain calm. The footsteps silent yet heavy, like death lurking around here. The shadow stops for a moment in front of my bed, then continues moving. I close my eyes tightly, praying that everything will pass without incident. The long, dreadful moments drag on. Every tiny noise makes me flinch. Finally, the shadow leaves my room. I still do not dare open my eyes, still lying still, trying to keep my breath steady. After a while, I gradually relax my body, but my mind still tense. I tell myself I must try to sleep, to wake up at the right time and avoid violating any rule. Fortunately, nothing happens that night. I wake up at the right time, the morning light shining into the room, bringing some warmth and peace. But that horrific night still haunts my mind. I cannot forget the image of the man with the axe, the stench of blood, and the fear that engulfed me. The entire next day, I cannot focus on anything. The image and feeling from last night keep haunting my mind. I tell David about it, and he also shudders. "Jack, you are lucky," David says. "You must be more careful. We cannot risk our lives for curiosity." I nod, agreeing with David. From now on, I know I must strictly obey the rules, no matter how big the curiosity. These rules are not a joke, and the consequences of violating could be more horrific than I ever imagined. The following days, I try to live according to the rules, and restrain myself from being consumed by curiosity again. But that horrific night has left a mark that cannot be erased within me. I know that no matter how I try to forget, those images and feelings will haunt me forever. The next day, I do not see any news about someone violating the rules. Everything seems normal, yet I still feel worried. The event of last night haunts my mind, making me always cautious and careful. That day, my schedule is packed. I try to finish everything quickly to return to the dormitory before the rules time. However, life does not always go as planned. Class lasts longer than expected, and when I leave school, the clock has struck 5 p.m. My heart pounds. I feel terrified, not knowing what will happen if I return late. Rule number 7 haunts my head. After 5 p.m. must be present in the dormitory. If not, you will die in agony and your body will explode. I do not dare return to the dormitory anymore, afraid that I will meet that horrific end. I run searching and rent a small room near the school, hoping to be safe through the night. I call David, my roommate, to ask about the situation. David says that the dormitory is still peaceful. Nothing has happened. Hearing that, I feel somewhat relieved, but still uneasy. While I am calling, a strange feeling begins spreading throughout my body. I feel heat inside, a burning sensation like being set on fire, spreading from my palm to my arm, increasing hotter and hotter. My arm begins to swell. the pain unbearable. I scream in panic. My arm continues swelling and suddenly it explodes. Bones and flesh mix together. Blood splattering on the wall. I feel excruciating pain. My scream echoing in the small room. In that moment of agony and panic, I feel myself falling into a black hole of fear and despair. Blood gushing. My body trembling uncontrollably. I try to call for help, but my cry is only faint weak sounds. My eyes blur, darkness engulfing me. Before losing consciousness, the last image I see is the horrific scene of my arm exploding. Blood everywhere. Fear and ultimate pain drag me into unconsciousness. I wake up and find myself tied tightly on an old chair. Dim light from the dangling lamp above shining down, revealing the horrific scene before my eyes. Before me is a monster. It has many tentacles wrapped around its head, each tentacle moving in a lively, threatening way. In its hand is a large axe, the sharp blade reflecting the dim light. Its body shape resembles a human, but its face is monstrous. Its red eyes deep and consuming as if devouring my soul. Its mouth wide open, sharp teeth glistening in the dim light, and each time it breathes, the stench exuding makes me want to vomit. I immediately recognize this is the monster that appeared in my room that night. It saw me, but this time I have no way to escape it. I cannot scream, my mouth gagged by a damp, filthy cloth, my heart pounding in my chest, each beat like a death knell. The monster comes closer, its tentacles wrapping around my neck, making me feel suffocated. It whispers incomprehensible words, like an ancient Yui language, making me shiver. I feel terrified, not knowing what I will face next. In my mind flashes a thought. Perhaps these strange rules in the dormitory were formed to prevent this monster. It is the cause of all the horrific things that I and others have had to obey. I recall each rule. Do not stay awake past 11 p.m. Do not wake before 5 a.m. Do not leave the room from 12 noon to 1 p.m., and many more. All had the purpose of protecting us from this monster, but I violated them. The monster bends down, its red eyes staring straight into me. It raises the axe high, the blade gleaming blindingly. I know I have no chance to escape this situation. I close my eyes, preparing to embrace a painful death. The monster's roar echoes through the room, a deafening sound making me almost faint. Before I can comprehend what is happening, the sharp blade has struck down on my shoulder. The pain pierces to the bone, making me scream, but my scream is muffled as my other arm is severed and falls to the floor. Blood gushing in streams. The monster does not stop there. It uses a sharp knife to slit open my belly, each stroke deep into the flesh, exposing my insides. I feel my guts being pulled out, dropping piece by piece onto the cold floor. The unbearable pain nearly makes me lose consciousness, but the horrific scene before my eyes does not allow me to faint. The monster grabs each piece of my intestines, tossing them into the air like playing with what remains of me. Cuts flesh from my severed arm, chewing greedily. The sound of crunching echoes in the gloomy space. My bones crushed under its sharp teeth. Blood and fragments of my body scattering everywhere, creating a grotesque scene. I feel myself dying slowly, but the pain keeps dragging on without end. The monster opens its giant mouth, devouring each piece of my insides. The stench of blood and flesh fills the space, making me want to vomit. My consciousness fades, my vision blurs. Everything becomes hazy, until the knife pierces through my chest, making my heart ache. My heart is torn out of my chest, still beating faintly in the monster's hand, before it crushes and chews it. At this moment I have no breath left. I am dead. Before my consciousness completely disappears, only one thought remains. I was pathetic for violating those rules. After my death, everything about me seems to vanish. No one knows of my existence. No one remembers I was ever a student in this dormitory. The horrific rules remain, binding new arrivals. They will continue to obey, living in fear and haunting. And my story, a vivid warning, will sink into oblivion like screams in the dark. The rules persist. The monster continues hunting violators. My fate is sealed, and I am only a victim in this cruel game.